This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Very good morning to you all, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. But here in South Africa, it's most definitely morning. The sun is slowly starting to climb a little bit higher in the sky and it's nice and light. It's definitely not warm, but you can see the mist. This happens in the morning with the clash of temperatures. Little suspended water droplets are now rising and will eventually completely evaporate into mid-air. I think it's going to be a hot one today. I think we're going to have lots of incredible animal sightings all across our locations. So jump on board, everyone. It's that time of day for your live bumble through the bush. Great choice, everyone. You chose to jump on board and it was the right one to do. Welcome aboard, Wendy. Wendy is sitting on quarantine because, well, it's a very good place to start. Tracks, smells, audio, visuals. We found Tingana yesterday through visual, through literally just seeing him walk through the mist. It was a very scenic, wonderful day yesterday, and today's going to be the same. My name is Lauren. I do have Morgan on camera this morning. It's really rather chilly, I'm not going to lie. But we do have a surprise for you this morning. It's a big surprise. It's a tall surprise. It's a cuddly surprise. And it's got rosettes. Can any of you work out what the surprise is? I'm going to leave you hanging. I'm going to dangle that in the air. I'm excited, that's for sure. But anyway, before I get far too sidetracked, the safari is live and interactive. So please do talk to us. We love your questions. We love your comments, especially the funny ones. It gets cold out here, guys. Make us laugh. So talk to us in a number of ways. You choose. You can either use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, at FC on the YouTube chat, or you can head over to the WildEarth website, register, and as long as you've done that, you can submit your questions under the live safari page. But kids, if you're watching, which we very much hope you are, we want to hear from you too. You send in your questions via email, and the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Tell us your name, your age, and your favourite animal, please. So peaceful. I know the Talamatis were around last night, but I'm just going to scratch the immediate vicinity. That's how it actually works being a guide out here. You work together as a team with all the other sort of guides in your area. For us, it's my surprise colleague on Rusty right now, and the Djuma team. The team, Rexon, Aubrey, Finotti, Mike. We work closely with them, and you should all check different areas. to figure out what's going on and update everyone. We've seen these tracks, You can hear lion coming from this side. There's absolutely no point in everyone driving the same area. So we split. Don't just race to a sighting. We split. Tackle the reserve. See what else you can find. Okay, I think I'm maybe going to pop my scarf on and have a little bit of coffee before bumbling. But talking of the chilly day, let's take a look at the weather across all our locations.
Well, I'm not so sure I'm that big a surprise, given that Lauren did say that I was here already today. But for those of you that don't know, my name is David this morning, and it's lovely to be back at Djuma. It's not been that long since I was here, albeit in a very different capacity to hosting these live safaris. Anyway, we are slowly meandering south down Zoe's Road at the moment, just checking for any signs of potentially Tingana coming out. I know he was somewhere to my left yesterday morning, so just having a little scratch. There's lots of tracks for hyenas coming up the road, and I think no, I thought I maybe saw his track in amongst all of this, but it's just hyenas coming up the road. So we're going to have a little scratch around on this sort of western side of Djuma, see what we can find. It's been a very productive part of Djuma over the course of the last few weeks and months. There's been a lot going on this western side, so we'll kind of have a little scratch here. I think I want to actually just take Rebecca's down and see if he didn't come out, because he doesn't look like he's come out this side, so he must have come out kind of southwards and down. But yeah, we'll try and see if we can catch up with the old Duke. It's been a while since I've seen him. In fact, the last time I saw him, he was way out of his normal area. He was down on the corner of Nkoro, Kruger Park and Torchwood, eating a civet. He's taken to eating civets quite a bit of late. So it's nice to hear that he's kind of pushed back into Djuma a little bit. Of course, he is quite nomadic now. He's not a territory holder, but still, it's nice to kind of have him saunter through every now and then. It's been actually a period of catching up with old friends. I've had just come back from the most amazing trip with Sky Doogie, one of our viewers. We went and did a whole bunch of things and went and saw probably two of the most special cats that I've had the pleasure of spending a lot of time with in my career, which is Hosanna and Tamba. For those of you that have no idea who either are, Hosanna is Karula's last son and was basically a household name for a number of years in this area. He became a cat that basically rewrote the books in many ways, and I think probably most of you watching this will know who he is and absolutely loved him. So we went and looked for him and found him, and then Tamba as well, who for me is my favorite male leopard ever. So to go and see him again was an absolute treat, and he is an absolute beast now. He's gotten massive. I was actually a bit taken aback at how big he is from a width and kind of weight point of view. He's this massive chunky cat now. He's not as tall as Hosanna or as long, but he's just short and stocky and stout, and he's just got kind of this aura about him that oozes power and presence. Not that Hosanna doesn't, but Hosanna still in some ways feels like a smaller, or not smaller, but a kind of younger, less serious cat. It's still like he's just meandering about doing his thing, whereas Tamba's like all business and doing his thing. So that was really cool to see him, although he was a naughty boy when we saw him, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. Right, in the meantime, while we go and scan around, see if we can find any sort of tracks for Tingana, let's send you across to Nick to say good morning.
Good morning and welcome to a very, very chilly andBeyond Ngala Private Game Reserve this morning. And we have made our way to start the morning off at a watering hole quite close to camp in the east. A beautiful scene this morning, how the reflections in the water, and you can see there in the middle of the picture there's one head of a hippo who has returned from his evening of feeding, and not much movement around the waterhole this morning. I didn't expect to find too much. I was thinking maybe the lions would be here. My name is Nick, and behind camera we got Odie this morning, and our plan for this morning just to pop up to this waterhole, see if there was anything around, and from here, with Tristan looking for leopard this morning, I think what we'll do is we'll try see if we can find some lions. You can see there's a whole flock of guinea fowl just flying into the rest of their group. I just love those reflections this morning with those two drinking in the front. Very chilly morning today, so I'm sure the predators are still going to be active for quite a while, which is fantastic news for us. So hopefully we'll be able to find some lions nice and early and get to see them moving around. Yesterday near the end of show, we did manage to find a lion or two, but we had a bit of an issue with, I think it was elephants trumpeting. An issue with load shedding and signal in South Africa. But we've managed to come right this morning, and we're hoping for a really exciting morning today. These are helmeted guinea fowl that are coming down to drink. And we did, when we drove up to the waterhole, there were a few of them around, and you can see those two in picture with the red and the blue head. They look like adults, and I'm sure there's some chicks or youngsters behind. And you will be able to see with the darker head, there's one in the middle of the back just coming down on the far left-hand side. You can see how it's got a bit of a darker head. Starting to get its adult colors, but not quite yet. And they're coming down this morning to just hydrate a little bit before they venture off on their day of feeding. Some very grumpy elephants behind us this morning as well. I couldn't agree with you more, Safari Channel. I think it brings just another element to the sunrise safari, having a little bit of mist. And yeah, it just gives a different feel to the morning drive. It's very beautiful. I love it when it's misty like this and you go up onto some of the higher parts on the property and look down into the drainage lines and see that thick layer of mist, which I'm sure is around this morning, just in the part of the reserve we're in. There's no real high points to be able to view those mist belts running along the drainage lines. Wonder what's causing those elephants so much drama this morning. If it's a bull coming into the herd that's making some of the cows a little bit irritable, potentially even a predator around that they're not so happy with. So we'll continue on our lion hunt from here and see if we can't pick up on some tracks and signs and see if we can track down some of the Birmingham Pride this morning. But, yeah, nice to start off at a waterhole first thing.
The sun is rising. The favorite part of my day. That color palette across the horizon, it's just delicious. But also the noise, the sound, the ambience, the birds waking up and claiming their territory. That adds to it. So we're just going to sit here and enjoy these spectacular views and listen to the sounds of the bush. Isn't it just beautiful? Hopefully very shortly we'll actually be able to feel its warmth.
Well, no signs of Tingana that we can see coming out. So I don't know if he maybe left that block yesterday during the day. I know that he was seen going into that block yesterday morning. So it's very possible he left during the day yesterday, but I couldn't find any tracks coming out, just hyenas moving up and down in that area. So I'm just checking slightly further west, and then I'll turn and come back towards sort of Treehouse Dam. Seems like Treehouse Dam's been fairly popular of late with Moya and Kalamba and kind of being around that area, so we'll try and see if we can't pick up any signs of them as well. It would be nice to see Moya. The last time I saw Moya was in 2012. Was it 2012? Might have seen her again in 2015, 2016. Can't remember. But yeah, it's been a while since I've seen her, so it'll be good to catch up with her again. It's a beautiful cat, is Moya. And it's super interesting. You might see a cloth every now and then. That's not super interesting. That's just David being efficient and cleaning the camera every 5 minutes because it's a misty morning, and so there's often a bit of mist on the lens. But it's been very interesting to see how there's been this change in female territories of late. You know, with females moving quite far outside of their normal ranges, particularly quite established females. So if you think like in Sele, Moya, they've left places that they've dominated for sort of 6, 7, 8 years, and have moved into another area. And that's probably all just to do with competition. At the moment, the leopard population is very high and very stable. And so as these younger, more efficient females are moving into the same spaces, generally they're daughters. So we're seeing a distribution and a shift of some of the older females, which is to be expected. It's part and parcel of what goes on out here, and there's not anything really that unusual, but it's just been interesting to see it kind of happening in quite quick succession with 2 females in our immediate area. Not that I'm complaining, because both are relaxed cats, and getting both of them kind of coming into Djuma is very, very nice. Makes for good viewing, particularly with Kalamba being as sort of skittish as she is at the moment. I don't know why all of a sudden she's become so kind of twitchy, but maybe it's to do with the fact that she could potentially be pregnant again. I know last time when she was pregnant she became quite elusive, so it could be that. It could be there's so many male leopards around at the moment that it's making females' life a little bit difficult. I suspect that we're going to see a tough time for a lot of the females, and particularly with raising cubs. It's really not going to be easy for them, and it also explains why a leopard like Thandi is being so successful and why she's moved Marips as much as she has of late. You know, she was living on Torchwood and then all of a sudden just kind of moved him straight to Chitwa, and has been hanging, her and him have been hanging around down on Chitwa. And I think it's because we've just got so many male leopards vying for this area at the moment that it's just not safe for a little cub. Not that Marips is little or a cub anymore. He's kind of a big beast who's doing all of the things he needs to do as a leopard by himself these days. But it's just to ensure his safety, Thandi has kind of taken him much further down into Mulawati's area. This northern section at the moment, if you think about it, there's Tortoise Pan, Tavangumi, this male that Lauren bumped the other day on quarantine, which comes out of the Timbavati, the male with the broken tail that's being seen on Buffel's Hook of late. He's a little bit shy, not really sure what his kind of story is, still trying to figure that out. Then there's Inklangula, there's Quarantine, Tingana's in the mix. So when you add all of those male leopards up, it certainly makes it difficult for a lot of the female cats to have any sort of success. And so maybe Kalamba, with all of those males and then now the addition of Moya and Kara in the area, it's just making things a little bit tough for her, and so maybe that's why she's a little bit flighty and a bit twitchy, particularly if she does have little cubs inside. She's going to be that way, so I'm sure she'll settle that down again at some point. But super interesting dynamics at the moment. I'm excited to kind of be here for the next little bit, just to kind of see how it's going. The leopard world here is saturated, but also in a fluid state at the moment. It seems like there's a lot of moving and jostling and positioning, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how everything pans out come sort of end of winter, where water is fast disappearing and becoming kind of restricted to only those big water holes, which means and a lot of these leopards are going to have to utilize those water holes a lot more. All right, nothing coming out sort of south and west, so let's check more eastwards towards Treehouse Dam, see if there's any sign of any of our spotty cats walking around on this side. Seems like it's been quite quiet though. I don't see any fresh signs of elephants. It seems like a lot of the elephants are down on the Sand River at the moment, spending time at Singita and Dulini. A lot of elephants packed along the river there. So maybe that's where they all are. But otherwise I haven't seen too many tracks for even buffalo or anything like that either. So kind of just see how we go and figure things out this morning. This is like a drive where you just get yourself kind of reacquainted with where everything has been moving and kind of try and pick up tracks and things like that. All right, onward towards Treehouse Dam. Let's hope we get some sort of luck around that area, or at least some signs. In the meantime, let's ship you down to the eastern side of South Africa, to Phinda, and see what they're up to.
A very good morning and a cool winter's morning here from andBeyond Phinda. Standing here next to a beautiful fever tree by a watering hole, and got a beautiful senior in front of us. Good morning, my name is Djuma, and behind the camera we've got Johan, and this morning we've just come into this beautiful area to see if we can find anything really. It is such a cool morning. We thought it was going to be much colder than what it is at the moment. There's just a little bit of a breeze this morning. Otherwise, it is very, very quiet. The sun hasn't even come over the mountains behind us, so everything is still starting to wake up and warm up, waiting for the sun to come and bake them. Not a bad place to start our drive. There's just 2 hippos in the water here, probably staying in the water, trying to keep themselves a little bit warm. Johan and I was just discussing how the water is probably a little bit warmer than what it is outside at the moment. Beautiful fever trees in the background there. And we are in our dry season now. We had like a little bit of spitting rain earlier this week, but you can see this watering hole is drying up fairly quickly as we are in our dry season. Luckily, it's only a couple of months and then the first rains will hopefully be falling again. And while we're sitting here, we're listening for any signs of other animals that might be in the area. If we can hear any alarm calls, animals calling to each other. The birds are not even calling that much, and I think it's because the sun is not coming over the mountains just yet. Some of the other game drive vehicles have just come into this area as well, looking for some lions, so hopefully we can join them in the search. But have a look at this area that's here in the background. Looks like some nice big open rolling hills with lots of grass. So you can imagine a lot of plains animals that are here to graze we'll be spending some time around here. I'm sure they're also waiting for it to warm up a little bit. We often find buffalo herds frequent this area because of all the grass that's around here for them to feed on, and also lots of water for them to go and drink a few times during the day. This is probably one of the best spots, and the spots where we see the most black rhino as well. And Yuan hasn't seen a black rhino at Phinda yet, so gonna make it our mission this morning, see if we can maybe track one of those down. Would be amazing to see if we can find one. In any case, for all of you at home. Just feel the cool breeze coming and blowing over us. But I think for now, let's just sit and listen.
As one of the industry's best and Fagasa indoors training institutes, NJ Moorfield Guide College produces professional guides of exceptional caliber and gives students from around the world an incredible experience. NJ Moore offers courses to suit all types of interests. The full-length career course results in a Fagasa accredited qualification and the option of a 6-month internship at one of Moore Family Collection's luxury safari lodges. Shorter courses are a great introduction for those considering a career in field guiding or even a life-enriching experience in your gap year. With spaces still available in July, don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity to live your African dream.
What fascinates me most about the animal circle of life is the intricacies between the large and the very, very small. I mean, it's very easy to go out there and find the large. Once you found the large, the cascading effect down to the small absolutely fascinates me. Alertness and situation awareness is by far the #1 aspect for protecting ourselves out on safari.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Well, the Chalamatis are already on Bufosuk. Lions move far at night time. If you get excited because they're on the dam cam and they're mobile, they will probably be long gone. They're already on Bufosuk, and unfortunately Bufosuk is not very viable for us right now, signal-wise. So I'm going to scratch around and see what else we can find out here. Leopards have been everywhere. We've been very, very lucky with the leopards. And that's because it is winter. It is so barren. I'm freezing. My fingers, I really should wear gloves. It hurts. That cold, when it really, really hurts. Animals also feel that cold. Yes, a lot of the sort of mammals out here have got hair, but they still feel the cold. And normally they will be moving. They'll be trying to generate heat. Even if I just do this for 30 seconds, do I look ridiculous? I don't quite know what I'm doing. I'm just moving my arm here. I can already feel a little bit warmer on the left side of my body. Now I'm going to do my right. And that's exactly why the animals do move, which is good for us because it means that we get to see. I don't really know what I'm doing. But I'm trying to generate heat. Muscles generate heat and metabolism, and that's why the predators do tend to sort of eat a lot more and also steal from one another. And that's why winter, if you are coming for the best game viewing rather than photography, if you like, winter's the best. It's cold, it's not fun to wake up, but you see a lot more. Summer, in terms of photography and the colours and the sort of buzz of life, is definitely better. It really depends what you're coming to the Lowveld for, or any game reserve. I get asked that question a lot. What's the best time of year to come, or what are you looking for? Do you want hot or cold? Do you want really intense game viewing, or do you want the sort of colour scheme? I mean, taking a photo of a leopard in the grass is just the long green emerald grass of summer. That is a photo. Taking a photo of a leopard in this sort of tawny, monotonous, barren grass doesn't really have the same visual effect. But I have to say, I'm surprised. I'm surprised at how open it is, because the summer delivered so much and it was so thick. We went weeks on end without seeing a leopard because we couldn't see through the grass. I'm surprised at how quickly everything has just disappeared and it's gone flat. Herbivores play a big part in that. Elephants make clear pathways, and buffalo. Buffalo really play a big part in trampling down all the grasses. So talking of finding animals in the grass, I'm going to try and do exactly that, and we're going to send you over to Nick on a bumble.
So welcome back, everybody, and you can see we're checking this road very carefully. We've got tracks of the lions that we were looking for this morning, but I think they've cut off into the area on the left here. I don't see any tracks on the road at the moment, but it looks like they were moving quite a big distance last night, probably looking for some food, trying to look for something to hunt. So it'll be interesting this morning if we are able to find them, to see if they have been successful or not. Also lots of hyena tracks around. But I think what we're going to do is, instead of driving around like this, we'll go up behind us and check a road called Caracal and see if the tracks don't maybe come out there. Otherwise we'll loop around and head to where the tracks, or the direction of the tracks, and where they were heading. Believe it or not, the sun has risen, but it's just got colder and colder this morning. So we've got our gloves and jackets still on this morning, but it's good for the game viewing and for wildlife. And if we do find these lions, hopefully they will still be a little bit active. So this is the area here at this junction with this road on the left where I last saw the tracks. They came up here, and it's quite hard ground, but it does look like they cut off north here. And that waterhole that we were at, that's in that direction, and they weren't there, and I didn't see any tracks or signs there. But yeah, they do look like they're cutting off in this direction to the right. But we'll check up this road, see if they don't come back. If not, we'll do a big loop around and then come down the other side. It's so nice to see tracks of so many lions, hyenas here as well. Kevin, no real news on any new lion coalitions. There are lots of young male lions in the different prides around us. The Mayan Bula pride, which we don't see often, but they do come in from the east and into the northern parts. I think there's 7 or 8 young males there that are going to be moving out soon and forming coalitions. In the Breakaway pride, there's 5 young male lions, and then of course we know in the Birmingham Pride there are the 3 younger ones and the other older one. So it could be another coalition as well. That looks like a falcon that's just flown over us. That was very cool. I didn't see what species, and we won't be able to get it on camera because it was flying straight over us, but it did look like a species of falcon. Maybe a Lana falcon, peregrine falcon if we're very lucky. We do get both species here. Neither seen very often, but they both do occur here. So you'll see me every now and then. I'm just checking down on the road to see if maybe the lions didn't come back. There's a chance that they could have spotted something and hunted something in that direction and then come back. The original direction that they were moving last night was in a north and westerly direction, but now they're cutting sort of more east. So we'll just check this road nice and slow. I don't think anyone else is coming to give us a hand this morning, which is exciting. It means we're all on our own. We'll have to make some good calls to try to see if we can't find this pride. It is the one with the cubs, so the 6 smaller youngsters, hopefully they'll be there. And one would expect them to not move very big distances, but in the last sort of 2 weeks, we've seen this pride moving very, very big distances looking for any signs of food, and there is a vehicle coming past. I just want to quickly let them know. Cut north at Old Airstrip. Okay, so just letting one of the other guides know who might be helping us. Dyke, he's actually going to be joining you from this afternoon, which is exciting. Just letting him know the directions where the tracks have headed. And now that they've driven down this road and haven't called in any tracks, it might have been a better idea for us to go around the other side. But on Dyke's vehicle, he does get us one of the trackers. So guinea fowl calling, but I don't think it's anything too serious. So we'll continue our search for the lions this morning, and hopefully we're going to be successful and find them for everybody this morning.
We've just stopped on our northern boundary. Well, it's a very good place to be. It's also high up, so it's warm. But we're just scanning, listening. You can see really far up this road. That's why we call it the highway. And very often you'll see a predator just walking along the road. So that's why I'm just going to take these few minutes with you all to just listen and watch at what's going on around us. Isn't it beautiful? We're going to drive right up this highway and hopefully we get lucky.
So with one of the other rangers having checked this road and the other road that we're going to be driving up, and not having reported any tracks, I don't think the lions have come this direction. They've probably gone around. Dyke is going to check up the road that we thought about maybe checking a little bit earlier, but decided against it, and he will give us an update. So we'll be driving maybe a little bit faster now that we don't have to worry so much about looking on the ground for tracks and trying to spot tracks of these lions. And we'll just do a big loop around. There is a waterhole not far from here that I'm quite keen to go and have a look at, just to see if there's nothing around. Who knows what could be there. And with it warming up now, there's a good chance something could be coming down to drink this morning. Just a little bit warmer where we're driving to, because it's a bit of a higher point on the property, so down in the drainage lines and by the Timavati River tends to be much colder than some of the higher points in the property, and that's just the fact that cold air doesn't rise and hot air does. But we're going to send you over to Djuma at Phinda, who's managed to get lucky this morning.
So we were heading towards the open rolling hillsides. You can see the green bushes and things that's here around us. And we found some white rhinos that had just started to move around after lying down and sleeping on this cold morning. And look at that, there's actually quite a few of them. Oh, they're going down into like a little dry, like drainage or seep line in between the hills here. And you can see the sun is actually coming out behind us. It's already nice and warm. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 of them it seems. I just had a quick look through the binoculars. It looks like all of them seems to be white rhinos. And the way that we can see that by looking at them without really seeing their lips or their heads is if you look on the back of them, on their backs, almost at the end of their back, there's a big bump halfway down that is quite prominent, and that is just shows us that these are white rhinos. So the black rhinos will have that bump, but almost right at the back of their back where the tail almost starts, and the rest of their back will be almost a saddle like indentation. There you can see them starting to move. Ooh, that one that's coming out into the open there now looks like it might be a big bull. Oh yes, that is a big muscle behind the neck, and I could just see between his legs a piece of skin hanging there. That is what tells me it's a big bull. Looks like he's following 2 younger females there, almost like pushing them, and they're just trying to keep their distance from him. Might be the dominant bull of this area. So you might find that they were maybe sleeping on the hillside here, and now they've come down to maybe graze down in this seep line or drainage line, because you might find that the swirl is keeping the water moisture a little bit longer down in the valley here, so the grass might be a little bit greener, a little bit more lush than on the hillsides. Look at those ears listening backwards towards the bull, and even in our direction. Oh, some red-billed oxpeckers on them, flying in between them as well. there to feed on the external parasites like ticks and other blood-sucking parasites that might be on them. One, two, three, four, 5 of them. There we go. Let's see, there's all 4 of them, the ones that's on the left-hand side, almost the same size. I wonder if they are all young females or ones that have recently left their mothers. It looks like the big bull that's off to the right-hand side. You can see they're all pretty much the same size, the ones all the way to the left. Oh, that one's got quite a bit of mud on its belly there as well. So beautiful with them starting to graze up onto the hillside. I wonder if they're trying to get into the sun even more, moving up onto the hill. Les, you're asking how rhinos tear their ears. So the rhinos that you can see up ahead of us here, as part of our anti-poaching efforts, the tears and little notches that you might see in the ears is for us to be able to identify each and every individual on the reserve when we dehorn them, and also to keep an eye on which rhinos are related and so on. So it's essentially just a way of us keeping an eye on our rhinos here on Phinda, and it's part of the dehorning process. We do it when we dehorn them, and it's obviously a very sad thing that we need to do, but it does help us to curb the poaching that is happening here in South Africa. So some of the tears and stuff you might see in rhinos' ears might be from just running through bushes and thickets and getting caught on branches or so. Might also be ticks that's feeding on the edges of the ears that might just be deteriorating the ears, and you might see them being quite torn up and so on because of that. Safari Kitty, you're saying it's such a privilege to see rhinos, and indeed it is. Even though we see white rhino on Phinda relatively often when we're on safari, it's always amazing and exciting to look for them. And whenever people ask me what I want to go look for, it's often rhino, because you can go to other places like Ngala or the Sabi Sands or the Kruger National Park, and you might see a rhino only every now and then because it's such a big area, even though they've got lots of rhino around that area. But here on Phinda, because we've got certain areas which they like to be in and like to move through, it's really nice to come and look for them. See how they're slowly moving up the hill. Seems like they're spreading out a little bit, but their heads have been down the whole time, like just feeding on the grass. So after the evening, maybe lying down and sleeping for a couple of hours, you might find that they need to try and replenish some of that energy and start feeding. Because imagine all the grass they need to feed on to be able to have these big bodies, or keep the energy flowing for these big bodies. See how they're all kind of sticking together, but the big bull is just slowly moving behind them, making me think that he's sticking around to see if there's maybe a young female that's in estrus or so, or going into heat. The bull is now going to feed there where the others were. Leslie, you're asking what a rhino's life expectancy is. So these white rhinos, in the wild, their life expectancy is generally between 30 and 40 years, and they don't really have any natural predators, so probably closer to like 35 to 40 years. So they can get nice and old compared to other animals. See how the bull is going to go and feed there where the others were feeding earlier. You can imagine that there's some sections that the grass is a little bit more nutritious and more palatable for them, tastes a little bit better. Seems like all the younger ones, the younger group, the four is kind of sticking together there on the hillside as well. Seems like every time one of them finds like a nice patch of grass, all of them kind of move to that one. It's a little bit difficult to see from here, but you might not be able to see it, but I just had a look through the binoculars. Seems like there's even some more rhinos up ahead of our vehicle that's also coming out just over the ridge. So after these guys, we might go and see if we can see if those are some black or white rhinos. Can just see the brown coloration in the distance. But while these rhinos are just settling down and feeding around this little section here, we're going to see if we can keep on moving, see if we can get a view of those other rhinos. But in the meanwhile, we'll send you over to Tswalu where they want to say good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. Another very beautiful morning here. We've just had a jackal. Just want to see if I can find it again. There we go. There we go. Just coming to investigate on an old carcass. There we are. I'm just moving about. Yeah, there's an old giraffe carcass that he's probably was sussing out. It's a little bit windy, so the old smells would be picking up, and yeah, that's what he would be smelling. My name is Obakeng, and behind the camera we've got Hart doing a very good job for us there.
So I just want to see what this guy is really interested in this morning. You can see he's a little bit wary of what is happening also around him. Can imagine with that wind and uncertainty, almost his senses being impaired a little bit. So they'll be super alert, moving off, probably thinking it's not worth it. There's the giraffe carcass slightly, so we'll continue moving towards the dam. The dam is not very too far, one of my favorite dams, Tswalu Dam. See what's around there. Usually there's always something around by the dam. The residential ducks are usually there, sometimes some Egyptian geese. So let's go check it out. So with the weather like this in the Kalahari, what one would expect would be animals trying to use these thicker bushes to block the wind. A lot of them would probably be sitting down, and a lot of furry animals would display what we call aero erectile, which is a behavior where they would let the hair stand, and by so doing actually trying to trap that body heat or that warmth that the body generates, and just almost make like a shield around themselves by doing that. A lot of animals are capable of doing that, so a lot of times we will see that today, and that is what would also make some of the animals appear a little bit darker than what they originally would be. So if we do see some displaying that, I'll point it out on the later stage. But that's what one can expect today with the conditions that we are facing. The dam is just here. There's some oryx to the left of us here that have been just come to the salt lick there. So they're just enjoying a morning salt lick there. And obviously, usually they would go for water after doing that. A lot of sub-adults there, about a year and a half of age. One big female to the back, facing to the left there.
The importance of forests cannot be underestimated. Over 1 billion people live in and around forests, depending on them for fuel, food, medicine, and building materials. The Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa, WESA, is the national implementer for a program called LEAF. The LEAF program makes use of indigenous forests grown on school properties to teach pupils about biodiversity. This directly instills a sense of ownership of the natural surroundings and reconnects children with our biomes and heritage. WESA needs your help to bring nature back to schools. Ask your school to join the program through the link on their website. Together with WESA, you can help take this incredible program to schools across the country.
Africa is very special, and when you come down here, even when you're watching through our camera, the landscapes change from desert to bushveld to up in the Masai Mara where there's grassland. That means that the biodiversity changes as we move along Africa. And what I love most about connecting with you guys is the fact that I get to share these wonderful experiences with thousands of people.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is a call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at WildEarth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you're going to have to register on the website. But once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
So we came a little bit forward. I don't know if you can see the black dot there, but that is a buffalo bull there. And that is not what I spotted earlier. I know I said I spotted some rhinos. But the buffalo bull is very close to those rhinos that I spotted earlier. And it seems like there is quite a large herd of buffalo in the distance, just in between the thickets. And I think this buffalo bull, it does look like a bull, is probably just trailing the herd and heading in that direction. Yeah, I can see that bit of a dewlap below his chin there. Piece of skin hanging there, so that is definitely a bull. Probably an old bull. He's trying to catch up with the herd there. You can see he's listening and looking in the direction of where that herd is. Also looking at our vehicle because we're standing on a little crest here. So we're probably sticking out like a sore thumb, and that's why he's looking in this direction every now and then. There's two white rhinos just to the right of him as well. Oh, he's actually turning back and heading towards... Or maybe the rhinos just moved a little bit. Oh, look how he's picking his head up and looking straight towards the buffalo. I mean to the rhino. What is he doing? He's going straight towards them. Let's see what happens. Just passing by. You can see those rhinos there. The one on the left looks a little bit bigger than the other one. Wonder if it's mom and calf. Just looking at the size of the youngster on the right. Doesn't look that old, so probably mom and calf. Yeah, for sure. I wonder if that buffalo bull is picking up the scent of the rest of the buffalo, but he's not too sure where they are, so he's now moving again. I think trying to find out where they've gone. Maybe walking on the pathways or the little game trails that the other buffalo walked already. And with this wind blowing from the right, I wonder if he's not sure where they've gone, so he's maybe smelling old dung or other buffalo. Oh, he's just about to disappear over that little crest there. Incredible to see it actually move that quickly, and it's just walking, so just imagine how the amount of distance they can cover if they want to, and how quickly they can cover it. And there he's gone, and look at these rhinos now. Starting to feed now that the buffalo bull has moved off. But for now, I think we are gonna keep on going and see if we can search in between all these thickets and all these small bushes that's growing here and see if we can find some black rhino.
Well, hopefully you have some luck, Djuma. We have had a little bit of luck, I suppose. Way in the distance. I thought I saw something moving, and I was hoping it was going to be a leopard, but it is little hyenas that are over there. So we'll let Lauren know, because I know she's been looking for them, and they're on the road close to where the den site is. You can see how far away it is from us, where we spotted them kind of moving around. We were sitting with these zebras that are having a good little scratch on the burnt section. It's a good place to find a lot of animals at the moment. These burnt areas make for the perfect place for animals to see predators coming, and so they enjoy sort of sitting on these at night, and then as the day starts to heat up, they start to move off. They'll also enjoy it in a few months' time. Some of the areas around here that were burnt early season have already started to green up, but this area hasn't just yet, because we haven't had rain since this was burnt. But as soon as we get a bit of moisture into this will start to green up, and then you'll find that the zebras and buffalo and waterbuck and impalas all absolutely love to feed off this area. Is that nice, little zebra? All right, turn and do the other way. Nothing like a good morning scratch to get the day started. You can see they love scratching, do zebras. They, much like rhinos and buffalo in that regard, is that they like to find themselves a little stump that they can get onto, and they can sort of scratch all along the side of the body, around the main area. You can imagine having a few little ticks on you every now and then. It must get itchy, so branches like this just make for the most perfect scratching post in the early morning light. Is that nice, zebra? Zebra looks as though it is thoroughly enjoying not only the scratching but the sunshine too. Kind of working its whole body past that branch. You're a silly zebra. Right, so the reason why we actually stopped at these zebras is because I wanted to listen. I have tracks for Thandi. I think it's Thandi. It might be Tlalamba, kind of moving towards Chitwa. The reason why I say Thandi is because I know Marips has been on Chitwa a lot, and so is Thandi, but they kind of come through Djuma on the southern section and then cut into Torchwood heading towards the Mulawanini. So I would imagine that it must be for Thandi. Maybe she's returning back to Marips, and the reason why I wanted to sit and listen is that if she is looking for him, she might start calling. And if we hear her calling, and she does call, it means that maybe she's got a kill, and the kill could be back on the Djuma side. So if she goes, fetches him and brings him back, it's possible. So I just wanted to turn off and listen, and it seemed like a perfect spot with the zebras and the wildebeest, impalas and hyenas way in the distance to kind of sit and listen for the morning. It's one of the most underrated things on a game drive. A lot of people don't stop to listen. Listening is a very important part of finding animals out here. You'll be surprised how much you can hear when you just turn off for a little bit and just sit quietly. Often you can pick up a little alarm call or a sound of something calling like lions or leopard, and that will be able to sort of dictate where you go and what you get up to. So I always find just stopping like this, especially if you have other animals around, can kind of satisfy your visual sort of senses in the meantime while you listen. But so far been quite quiet in this little section. I haven't heard any sign of her. Also, we know that this little clearing and this little burnt area has a lot of wildlife on it, and so I'm sure that's why she cut off, is to bypass all of this without being shouted at by everybody. All right, we're going to carry on. We'll let Lauren know about the hyenas. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Phinda.
Okay, everyone, we just had a brief visual. I don't know if you can see them there. They're just walking through the long grass. There's some black rhinos there, 2 of them. They're just going into the thickets there. They're just standing still now. Have a look at the ones back there. I can't believe we found some black rhinos, guys. Have a look at the back. You can see it doesn't have that prominent bump in the middle. It has more like a saddle. Just behind some thickets there. Exactly where we thought we might find some. in between all these green bushes and so on. There you can just see their back sticking out a little bit. We are viewing them from quite far away because they looked like they were quite nervous. There were some kudu bulls chasing each other. That's what made me look over my shoulder and then just saw them in between the thickets there. They seem to be settling down now in between the thickets. I think they were feeling a little bit vulnerable out in the open. Let's see, we'll just keep our distance from them because we want them to settle down, and then we'll try and see if we can get another view of them. Compared to white rhino, they can be a little bit more nervous of vehicles, and we don't often see them, so this is very, very special. The buffalo bull that we were viewing earlier is actually heading in that direction. They're coming out. They're coming out into the open a little bit. Ah, yes. Oh, look at that. Look at the one feeding on the bush there. There we can see. So now we know for a fact those are black rhino feeding on twigs and leaves. Looks like a bigger one on the left and a smaller one on the right. So the body shape is much, much different. Yeah, they're just feeding away, moving in between the thickets, so I think they've settled down. Noel, you're saying what a treat, white and black rhino. Oh, yes, it is. And this time of the year, coming into this area, this was exactly what we were hoping for. And I'm so glad we could show Johan his first black rhinos on Phinda. And we were chatting about these small thorn trees and small bushes and stuff growing around this area. And this is why they love this area so much. See the one in the back? Just picking his head up and listening to the left-hand side, because that buffalo bull is off to the left. See the one that's having a wee there now? You can see the head, the way it sits on the body is even different to the white rhinos, a little bit more higher up, the one that's side on to us. Bit easier for them to feed on twigs and leaves. They don't have to get down to the ground all the way. I'm so glad they came out into the open. Now I can see that saddle in the back much, much better. Oh, it's even coming even more into the open for us. Oh, that's awesome. We are a couple of hundred, probably 100, 200 meters away from them. And the wind is blowing our scent in the opposite direction, so that is good for us with these black rhinos. It's just like those white rhinos, they rely a lot on hearing and smell. And if the wind is not blowing in their direction, then I don't think they've got any idea that we are even near. So it's just listening. They're on the move again. Seems like they're heading back towards a road that is on the left-hand side. But just like those white rhinos we saw earlier, they might zigzag all over the place while they're feeding. So glad they settled down. They moved very quickly into the thickets when there were some some kudu bulls that were chasing each other. one of the reasons why, look at that coming into the open. One of the reasons why Phinda is so special is because we've got such healthy populations of black and white rhino. And Phinda has played such a big role in the black rhino expansion, range expansion project. That looks like a big bull that's there in the back. I can see the piece of skin between the back legs. I wonder if it's a bull. When the other one was urinating, it looked like a younger bull, so it might be two bulls staying together. Let's see when the other one comes into the open, if we can see. Quite a bit smaller though. Does look like it's got a piece of skin between its legs. So I wonder if it's one older and one younger bull, but not fully dominant yet. That's probably why they're sticking together for some companionship. I can't believe how they came into the open for us. This is amazing. Wow. What a special find this morning.
So we have managed to find a young elephant bull feeding this morning in the sun on one of these ridge crests where it's a little bit warmer. And on our quest for the lions, we've checked this road and just behind us, about 300-400 meters behind us, it looks like 3 or 4 of the lionesses crossed east over the road. Didn't see tracks of the 2 males or tracks of the youngsters, so they're still on this side where the elephant's busy feeding. But who knows how far into the bush they could be. So I think we'll do one more little loop, and if we don't find them along the road, we will try to see if we can find something else this morning. But it's been quite fun trying to track them. Obviously, we can't get off the car and walk for long periods of time, and at Ngala, there's very big areas between the roads, so I could end up tracking for 2 hours before I find them, if I was able to find them. But have a look at this elephant and look at that little branch in his mouth. If you listen carefully, you might even be able to hear it. See how he's chewing on the end of the the end of the branch, and I think what he's trying to do with that large fruited bush willow is just try and strip some of the bark off the tree, which has got all the nutrients in a cambium layer. And that's what we've been seeing lots of elephants doing for the last couple of weeks now that the grass is really dried out and the leaves are starting to dry and turn as well. Good time of year for the elephants to change their diet and focus more on bark of plants. Quite a young elephant bull all on his own as well. I'm sure it hasn't been too long since he's decided to leave the herd. And he has decided to strip another branch off and continue feeding. When we arrived, he was a little bit nervous of us, but I think it's because he was very close to the road. And as we gave him a bit of space, he seemed to relax completely this morning, and I think he's enjoying the sun just like Odie and myself. Bit of a feed this morning. I'm just going to keep quiet for a while and see if we can listen to him feeding. Alison, I haven't ever seen branches breaking elephants' teeth, but I'm sure they do, as they are quite tough to chew on, especially when he's trying to strip bark like he's doing now. He's really got to bite into the wood to pull that bark off. And yeah, I don't know if they break the teeth, but I definitely know that they wear them down over the course of their lives, and that's why they've got 6 different sets of teeth that will grow throughout the duration of their life. And the less grass that's available for them to feed on, the more woody material that they have to eat, the shorter the lifespan of those teeth. So you can imagine them actually breaking some of the teeth from time to time. Obviously with us, don't ever really get to have a good look inside these elephants' mouths. But yeah, you can imagine probably would break. Definitely wears them down over the course of their life. There's also a little bird above this elephant bull, Odie, if you just zoom out a little bit. And have a look at the tail, see how it's deeply forked in that dark body with that slenderish bill. That is a fork-tailed drongo that has been perched the whole time since we've been here. And I think the drongo is waiting for the elephant to disturb any insects or grasshoppers in the grass that will then fly up, or at least move and alert that fork-tailed drongo to their presence, and then it can swoop down and try and catch it. But for the time being, the elephant's been feeding in pretty much just one spot, and by the fact that the drongo hasn't moved, you can imagine that he hasn't managed to disturb any insects as of yet. He is really going to town on this bush willow though. It's quite nice for us to just stop as well and have a chance to listen. Cheetah, I wouldn't say it's easy to age an elephant. You can always make a reasonable estimate, but you'll never ever, well, you might if you're very lucky, but I don't think you'll be able to age it down to the year that it was born or the month. But when trying to age them, you'll be looking at the size of their body, the size of their head. You look towards their ears to see if they've got any prominent cuts in, or if they've been torn and weathered. With this elephant, you can see his ears. He's got 1 or 2 little cuts, but they don't look too torn and weathered. You'll also look at the temple and to see how sunken in his temple has become as they get older and older. Usually about 40 years onwards, their temple becomes more and more sunken in. This specific bull, he's quite a young male actually. I'd say he's probably between 15 and 20 years old, if I had to take a wild guess. So to get that guesstimate within 5 years, I think you can do without too much difficulty. But if you start trying to age it down to the exact year, I think you're going to struggle quite a lot. Maybe in some of the reserves that are fenced and where the elephant population is the same, so you pretty much know the elephants, which elephants are on the property and which are not. You'll know every animal that's on your property essentially. Then it might be a little bit easier to age them more accurately. But on a place like Ngala, where there's no fences to the areas around us, into the Timbati and Kruger, we've got elephants moving through the property and out of the property every day. So you never really know which elephants you are seeing. You might be able to recognize a herd or a bull here and there, but obviously then we won't be able to tell the exact age of them. I was just mentioning that it's quite nice to be able to turn off the vehicle and also just have a listen, especially on a search like we've had this morning for lions, where they've headed into quite a big wilderness area that we probably won't be able to track them on foot in. But if they were to roar, they could potentially give their presence away, where we would have a much more accurate area where we think they might be, and you won't tend to hear those roars too much unless they're right next to you while the vehicle is running. The noise of the engine and the noise of the tires on these dirt roads tends to almost cancel out the other noises that you hear. So by stopping gives us a good opportunity to listen for the potential roars of any lions or lionesses around us, which we haven't heard any as of yet. LP tusker elephants, they do move through Ngala every now and then. And we do see them from time to time. I wouldn't say it's common. I don't think it's common that we see the really, really big bulls. I also don't think it's common to see very, very big elephant bulls with huge tusks in the Kruger anymore. They are still around, but they're not as common as they might have been 50, 60 years ago, even 100 years ago. But yesterday afternoon at the Clara Dam in the east, we had two really nice bulls with decent tusks. I wouldn't classify them as tuskers, but they did have decent tusks. I think the last time I saw a really big bull with big tusks, probably a month or so ago down in the south of Ngala. But they do move through the property, and any tusker that you get in Kruger, the fact that there's no fences, there's a chance that they might come through Ngala as well. Hasn't moved very far since we've arrived. He has really fed on that large fruited bush willow consistently. But I think we'll do one more big loop and see if we can't pick up on tracks of the Pride one more time. Maybe they'll be lying next to the road if we're super lucky.
I'm Maggie, also known as Mia My Cat on Twitter. I purchased the Ticket to Dream so that I would make it back to Africa someday, so here I am. I enjoy WildEarth very much. Just the experience it brings to everybody, it just helps everybody cope with things.
If you want to go on safari with a WildEarth guide, whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
My favorite part about today is seeing Maribs, seeing him stalk the waterbuck and seeing the interaction between the waterbuck and him, and he's just an impressive little guy.
Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
It's very exciting to be on a live drive at Djuma, to see how things work in the back and to be certainly much closer to the animals.
My favorite animal is a leopard, purely because I just think they are just the epitome of feline grace and power, and the way they can move about in any environment and remain hidden until they want to be seen, I just find incredibly intoxicating, and they're amazingly beautiful.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at andBeyond in Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through andBeyond in Ngala on WildEarth. Send me live questions through the WildEarth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
So this herd of buffalo is just spreading out quite a bit. You might find that they were all lying down when the school breeze was coming up earlier this morning, and now with the sun up, warming them up, they are just spread out over that grassland area there and feeding as much as they can. You can see most of their heads are down and most of them are standing up. So they're all walking around and feeding around there. Amazing how they spread themselves a little bit so as to not compete with each other constantly for grass. our black rhinos have moved into the thickets now. I think they're still around that Tamboti Grove there, but very, very difficult to see them for now, so I think we'll stick with these buffalo for the time being. I think that buffalo bull that we saw earlier that did a U-turn and just kept on walking has gone in the direction of this herd of buffalo. I wonder if he's joined them already. And you're asking if black or white rhino fight over territory, and I can tell you they don't, because they are two different and separate species. They're not even from the same genus. So black and white rhino are related, but they don't feed on the same food, they don't mate with each other, they don't really interbreed in the wild. It's very rare, it's only happened in captivity, so they have no reason at all to fight over territory. They actually do coexist with each other all around, because like we've seen now, the black rhino with their heads sitting up high like that, they feed on twigs and leaves, and the white rhinos on grass. Just see them moving in between the Tamboti thickets there. Like, there's very, very little view of them. Trying to look through the binoculars if we can maybe spot another one. I don't know if you can hear the breeze coming over now. Just see some movement behind the thickets. Oh, there, one just came out into the open and it's walking through the thicket. But I think while we are losing view of these black rhinos, we're gonna keep on going and see if we can find some other animals. We're gonna send you over to Lauren at Djuma.
We have a hyena heading straight in the area of the den. I don't know who it is from behind, I'm afraid. We had Ntima drinking at Twin Dams, which was really beautiful, and she's looking fantastic. But both Morgan and I were chuckling. Hyenas are not the most graceful drinkers. When leopards or lions drink, is silent. It's that act of defying gravity, up, down, up, down. It's silent. But when a hyena drinks, it's very, that awful slurping sound. They're not the most graceful drinkers. And you can hear them from very far away. The den is just here, and obviously, as you know, it's not on our property, it's on Little Gowrie. But we can view it from the boundary line. I can see the hyena, whoever that is, I'm really not sure. Let me stop here, Morgan, because it's a nice open clearing. We might get a visual. Here we go. Guys, I miss you. Please come back to Djuma. Please, please, please. Is this Sutu? Let's get another. Okay, we may actually be lucky here, guys. So I'm going to sit by the den, see what happens. And for now, over to Tristan.
Well, while Lauren sits at the den and sees what happens, managed to stumble upon a little herd of eggs that's busy feeding. And I say little feeding because it seems like it's only two of them. I'm sorry, there's a stick in front of the Ellie's face, but we'll see the little baby there. Here comes the rest of them. They're all coming. And they were making a beeline straight towards this torchwood. I think they can smell the torchwood fruits that are on the ground. Still quite late for torchwoods to be around. We shouldn't still be seeing a lot of their fruits, but the trees have still got a fair number on, particularly this one. I can see quite a number of fruits still on the tree itself, and you can actually see how the ground is completely flattened around this tall tree from elephants that have been feeding. So they come in here and they just walk circles around it, much like you would see with the marula tree. It's the exact same thing. It's just elephants basically plodding along, and so the grass gets squished as they search for these fruits. How they are able to eat them, I'm not quite sure. The tortured fruit for me has got the most pungent smell to it, and it just does not smell great at all. So I can't imagine that it tastes very good either. But yet the elephants love it, and actually there was a group of Ngala bulls that was also here that rudely got chased away by the Ellies when they arrived, so they would have also been utilizing those fruits. I suppose if you think about it, at this time of the year, given the fact that it's dry and wintry and the food availability isn't as good, a few torchwood fruits seem to be a good idea. They're probably packed with nutrients, and so for elephants, I would imagine it's a welcome change to eating dry grass and bark of trees and roots that they've had to dig up. Also, it's pretty easy to find, so you probably find that the nutrient value versus the amount of energy expended to eat them is pretty good. So the percentage of what they get versus what they expend probably works in their favor, which is why they spend a lot of time underneath these trees. It's an interesting composition, this herd, because it's just the one female, and then it looks like three youngsters. It almost looks like her three offspring. I don't see any other elephants on their way, which is strange. You generally don't see herds like this. Look, she's chasing, the older female's chasing one of the youngsters. But you generally don't see herds of this structure. Normally it's multiple different females together with their offspring. Very seldom that you'll find a cow just with her offspring by herself. Look how she's moving. She's very distinctive, this cow. Not only does she have this big sort of cut out of her ear, but if you look at her right tusk as well, she's got a beautiful notch on that right tusk. You can see where she's been kind of whipping branches over that notch. So that's kind of two distinctive marks on her that would be able to make it easily IDable in the future. There's actually an elephant that we have to keep an eye out for. Her name is Summer. She's part of a herd of elephants that is being monitored by Elephants Alive, which kind of monitors elephants in this greater Kruger area. And she actually has a collar on her, or she did have a collar on her, and they need to recollar her because she's part of a kind of study, but no one has seen her for a while, so they're starting to get a little bit worried, so we need to kind of keep an eye out for her. She doesn't have the most distinctive of markings, but she does have kind of mark on her right ear, so we've got photos of her, and hopefully if she does appear, we can let them know. It'd be good to kind of catch up with her and to help them out. They do a lot of good work, do Elephants Alive. They're part of the sort of conservation landscape in this area, and they've done a lot of good things, particularly with bees and trying to protect large trees using beehives, which is quite an interesting concept. And then the honey that those bees produce is often then processed and either used for human consumption or actually in veterinary work. Honey has huge amounts of healing properties, and a lot of the vets in this area have started to use it, particularly for wounded animals that have like snare wounds or something like that. They find that the honey is actually one of the best things to smear around that wound, and it helps actually heal it up really well. Are you guys going to sit right behind the only bush that's obstructing us? I think that is a solid yes at this stage. There's a little mini torchwood that's growing in front of them. So this is one of the fruits that managed to survive its onslaught of elephants and germinate, and it's a young tree that's now starting to kind of grow. And you can see with these trees actually why it gets the name greenthorn. So torchwood is obviously its one name, but greenthorn is its other name. And if you look at the new branches, they have a very green coloration to them with green thorns. So it's a pretty kind of self-explanatory name. You find that these trees kind of pop up like this underneath one another, and they form these beautiful big trees with this fluted bark. I absolutely love torchwoods. They're wonderful trees to see. All right, well, we're going to carry on sitting with our eddies. Let's see how long they stay and feed off these fruits, and if they give the tree a little shake.
These black rhino bulls that we heard earlier is just slowly moving through like a bit of a clearing here. Difficult to get a view of them. They are just facing with their bums towards us now, but they are just moving in between some thickets. The view is on and off. Gonna see if we can try and get a view of them. They're just in between the thickets now, feeding like they were earlier, just moving in between. Probably slowly moving towards and from some of the smaller trees that's in this area. Small buffalo thorn trees, some sickle bush, and some other Vachelia species that's all growing around this area that they're feeding on. The majority of these small green bushes that you see are all guarri bushes, and they're not really feeding on that, so that's not something that they enjoy feeding on. It's not really that palatable, tasted nice for them. So they are more after the buffalo thorns and the sickle bush and those Vachelias, or previously known as acacias. Quite a few of those small trees growing all over here. Still in between the thicket there. Seems like they're not moving too much. There's some other vehicles, game night vehicles, racing to this far section where we are now to come and see if they can get a view of these black rhinos, because it is so rare and so nice to see them. If I look with my naked eye, I can barely see them. So good to have some binoculars to be able to spot them.
Back to Tswalu, still searching around, trying to go in between the June streets, looking for animals around there. These dunes would make a little valley, and that's where a lot of animals would try hide. But also not that, it becomes a little bit more open, and the sun coming through is where they would actually face, just to try and keep warm. So that's the the areas we are currently trying to infiltrate and see if we can find anything. What you sometimes often find also is certain species of animals would actually be right on the crest of their dune tops, just waiting to sun themselves there as the sun comes through. So I'm being very opportunistic this morning with regards to such. So let's see what we do find. A little bit nippy this morning. Maybe a little bit more than nippy. Always makes for an interesting one. So for the time we're still searching, we'll send you over to another very beautiful location. Enjoy.
Well, we're still with our elephants. They've moved from one torchwood to the next. This is pretty commonplace at this time of the year for elephants. If you're tracking elephants, this is how you track them, is pretty much if you see them in a feeding pattern around torchwood trees, just look for the nearest tall torchwood, and you can almost guarantee that their tracks will head in that direction. And from here, what you'll find is they're going to slowly kind of feed around this tree. They'll mix it up between fruits and a bit of vegetation that's around. And then from here, they'll drop down the slope towards Chitwa Dam and go and have a little drink. But they're going to make use of this tree first before they head down there. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted because I was watching a Ngala that's walking in the distance. It's disappeared from view now, but it looked like it was having extreme difficulty walking, almost like it was hobbling quite badly, which is never a good thing to see. Antelope that hobble don't typically last too long, especially when you've got the likes of Tundi around. She'll take advantage of that pretty quickly. But you can see as soon as they kind of finish from this tree and they've sort of fed, they're going to leave, and I can see another torchwood just behind this one. Looks like they're heading towards that one. Maybe there's not that many fruits coming off this particular tree itself. I don't see that many. The other thing is that this is quite a young cow. She's not monstrous. So there's the other torchwood there sticking up. Did you see it shaking? I was just about to say she's not a massive individual, so shaking of the torchwoods for her is quite tricky. She doesn't really have that much of an option to be shaking the tree. The big bulls will come in and they'll shift and move a tree pretty easily, but these young cows, or smaller cows should we say, they have a little bit of a tougher time when it comes to actually moving the tree and getting the fruits to drop. You'll find the bulls are much more inclined to be able to do it. This is the one that's left here. This one has found itself a little branch that it's shoved in. At this time of the year, their diet is quite varied. There's a lot of different things that they're going to be going after. So from these torchwood fruits, then they'll target quite a lot of bush willows. And the bush willows, what they'll do is they'll either break them and then roll that branch in their mouth and strip it of that cambium layer. Or what they do is if the tree is slightly bigger, then they push the whole tree down in the hope that the roots start to expose and pull up. Bush willows have beautiful long roots that they like to eat. And so they'll target that. There's also a few tubers underground that they're going after at this time of the year that they'll also try and kind of get. But it seems like our ellies have just drifted a little bit, so I'm just going to roll forward slightly and see what we get. I don't want to really start Rusty because Rusty is so noisy at the moment. If we can just roll, is going to be much easier. All right, so I'm going to catch up with the herd, see if they're going to make their way down to the water. In the meantime, let's send you back across to Lauren.
Unfortunately, we followed that hyena for quite a bit, but it obviously went to the other side of the dam. And Tima was here, which is Twin Dams, and she went north, so she's probably going to settle down for the day, I would imagine. It's starting to get warm. She'll have been active all night. She'll find a little spot nestled in the thicket. So they're still using Djuma. We see their tracks outside camp every single day. Every single morning, hyena tracks. They're just not deigning on Djuma. But luckily we can get a view from the boundary line. It's not completely a disaster. She might still be around here. She must have went into the Mowati. Her tracks are not here. They're all desperate to spend more time with the hyenas. I know. I'm rather annoyed at myself today and the decisions I made. I'm very annoyed at myself. I should have come to the hyena den first. I mean, it's a hit or a miss. It's not something that we can really spend time at or really investigate, but I am annoyed at myself. I think the morning is a good place to come to Gowrie Main and just sit there to catch any sort of glimpses of them. I miss them. I miss them terribly. It's just so difficult to keep up with the Djuma clan now. But all we can do is try, and Tima's definitely strolled into Djuma. They are still the Djuma clan after all. I think I'm going to pop into the Mowati and try my luck with Sepwig. I haven't seen the Wig since coming back yet. Davi heard them hooting the other day, one of the owls. So I don't know whether it was the mum or the dad. So they're here. And it's a really tricky signal spot, but we can make it work. I'm a Libra, I'm very balanced, but I'm extremely stubborn. Tell Davi that one. I'm very stubborn. I'll make it work. Okay, I'm going to pop into the Mowati and see if we can get any luck with our beautiful spotted eagle owls.
As the sun goes down in Africa, for many, the day has just begun. WildEarth is ready for the next brand new concept, and this time it's at night. A specialized thermal drone will take to the air under the cover of darkness. As it flies above the bush, it will be searching for hotspots on the ground.
We might have a leopard on the far right of this group of hyena.
The ground team will then be called to identify the animal.
It is a warthog. That's exactly what it is. So there we go. It was a warthog that was running away from... Sorry, Warty.
And of course, it is at this time when the big cats are on the hunt.
Yeah, James just head a little bit more left.
Okay, Gabi, I'm going to go north around on Impala Road.
Okay, the lions are on the move, guys. Lions are chasing the wildebeest.
WildEarth is looking for a sponsor who can help turn this show to a long-running series. If you are interested, then head over to our website to find out more. wildearth.tv/sponsors.
Hi, I'm Nikki, your guide here at andBeyond in Ngala. So my favorite animal in the African bush definitely has to be the zebra. Because like people, with our fingerprints, every single zebra has a different stripe pattern. And, of course, a group of zebras together is called the dazzle. How unique is that? Come and join me or one of my colleagues here in Ngala for a sunrise and sunset safari on WildEarth.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hello, I'm Marna, your WildEarth safari guide from andBeyond Ngala. What I really like about connecting with WildEarth viewers is that we get to speak to viewers instantly, and I get to show you this beautiful property. If you want to ask me a question, register on the WildEarth website. Simply head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. Join me or one of the other guides twice a day on WildEarth.
So you can just see those black rhinos back sticking out above the bushes as they're feeding there. And we've got a special guest that's just joined us. Johnny is on safari with Chad, and they're enjoying the sighting with us.
Johnny, did you hear your sound? Oh, now I see that.
I still did.
So we're all just waiting to see if these black rhinos will come out of the thickets, but I think they are settling down and they're actually just feeding there because it's nice and warm now, so they're not too keen to move around too much. I think they've found a spot where there's sufficient stuff for them to feed on. Now that the other vehicles have come and joined us, we'll see if we can creep a little bit closer. They're the ones just turning a little bit into the open now. Just see its back.
He just wanted to point us in the direction. But in this area, we normally do off-road for black rhino, but in this area, the owner of the area doesn't want us off-roading on his property for black rhino. Yeah, that's the reason why we don't off-road for them. But like in the Phinda side, we off-road for black rhino.
I can see it there.
So there's actually quite a big dead tree down in the valley. Probably died from a lot of water coming down this dry river drainage line here. Even though they are slowly feeding, it's still amazing to see them. And that's why Johan and I have been spending almost the whole morning sitting watching them, because black rhino is so special. People go on safaris for years and years without ever seeing one. So very special to see. I wonder if this cool breeze that's blowing at the moment, they might just be standing in between the thickets there, settling down, maybe even having a bit of a rest out of the wind, because it is nice and cool.
I'll just see one.
Doesn't look like their head's moving around too much, but seems like they are moving a little bit. I reckon let's see if we can creep a little closer, then we'll send you over to Tswalu in the meantime.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. We are at one of the meerkat barrows. These, mind you, are not any of our habituated ones, but it's just to show you how delayed everything is here back at the Kalahari. We just saw one popping out, checking the surroundings, feeling how the temperature is, and just went back down, probably just to give a bit of info to the rest at the bottom there. Let's wait a little bit and see if they do start popping out. It's still a little bit windy and cold for them, so it's just a point of reference to show you that usually around this time they would be out sunning themselves, basking in the sun, but today it's cuddle day for them. Give them a bit of time and see if they start popping out again. Very susceptible to the cold, so they would take the time before they actually come up. Just gonna keep quiet for a little bit and see if they do maybe pop up. Yeah, let's just give them a bit of time. Sometimes it's just that need to check if we are a threat. Are we really a threat, not a threat? Just assessing that, and then they'll start popping up again. I mean, you can imagine for something so small, almost everything goes for them. So they have to be super, super vigilant. And I mean, this just goes to show how habituated the habituated ones are. It just shows you the difference in behavior. Heather, how deep can these burrows go? So usually when these animals burrow, they'll almost burrow in a J formation, meaning that they'll go straight down and then start curving flat, or even sometimes go a little bit deep and come back a little bit up and then start flattening out. So I would say probably 45 centimeters straight down, but it doesn't mean that tunneling itself is 45 centimeters beneath the ground. It could be more or less, sometimes maybe 20 or so, because they can collapse if anything heavy walks over the barrow system. I mean, things like your eland walking, coming as a herd and running past that could easily collapse those. Giraffe, would easily collapse those. But the tunneling system is actually very interesting, that they do it in such a way that wherever they come together as all of them, it's an area where it would be insulated so that they can keep the body warmth. But the J formation, or the slant that they make, is also to help with drainage in the times where there is rain. So it's a well thought of survival strategy for them, that they do it that way. Sometimes it doesn't even curve back up, it would curve to the side. So just that kink makes it possible for draining or for drainage. That's why they would do such. But also look at how many entrances there are. So it's a lot of work for them, in the sense that, especially on a day like this where it would be very windy, it means a lot of that sand goes back into those barrows. So there would be a lot of work once it starts warming up, where they'll start coming out and trying to get rid of all that sand out again. And obviously with the amount of time that they would have spent inside would mean also there would be feces and other things that they would try and get rid of. So a very intricate system, and one that the environment needs, aerating the land. That's part of the purpose of them digging tunnels like they are. For now, it doesn't seem like our friends would be coming out, so we're going to continue moving and searching for other animals. And whilst we do that, we'll send you over to another very beautiful location.
So we are just trying to reposition our vehicle a little bit to see if we can get a view of these black rhinos again. The other vehicles join us and we try to get a bit closer, but they are a little bit nervous. So we just try and see if we can get ahead of them. Gonna see if we can head up onto the hill up ahead of us, see if we can get a view from there. There's quite a large herd of buffalo that was in the distance that's also moving in this direction. And we also want to see this valley that's just here ahead of us. See if we can look into this dip, see if there's maybe some other rhinos or other animals that's trying to get out of this cool breeze. The other vehicles also around the corner, just trying to see if they can get closer to those black rhinos along the roads. So in these valleys, the water starts washing from the rain, washes some of the topsoil into these areas, so there are a lot more thickets and bigger bushes and so on growing down here, a little bit more space for their roots, a little bit more wet here as well, for them to have a bit of rain, of water, and lots of little thorn trees growing all over. And this is why we are driving around here, such good areas for black rhino. Let's see, in these dips here, especially with this cool breeze blowing, you never ever know what you might find. It seems like it's actually nice and quiet. There's barely any wind down here. So with black rhino and other rhino and white rhino as well, they rely so much on smell and hearing. They're trying to get out of the wind quite often. So always a good spot to look around these areas. Because if the wind blows, they can only rely on what the wind is bringing to them.
As you can see, we've got two monitor lizards that are side by side. One I actually don't even think you can call a monitor lizard. It almost looks like a small crocodile. It's so big. It's a massive monitor. It's difficult there with no sense of scale. But that one in front, in the foreground, is about as big as it gets. And they've obviously decided that it's been a fairly cold morning, that they're going to come and sun themselves on the little overflow of Chitwa. There's a little concrete section here that will probably warm up much faster than the surrounding terrain. And so I suppose if you're a cold-blooded creature like a monitor, this makes perfect sense to come and sit on this little concrete section and warm up. And so both individuals, just facing opposite directions, are kind of having a good rest and absorbing some sun just to kind of get those bodies going so they can go and look around for food and various other things. And it's probably why this area, actually, when you see these two sort of sized monitors, why the crocs here have struggled so much over the years to raise any sort of young. It's not that crocs are efficient mothers everywhere. Most crocodile clutches will only have about a 2% survival rate anyway, but you'll find with these guys being around, they're going to raid the nest of the crocodiles all the time, and they're going to kill a lot of them. If they obviously can find the nest, they'll open it out and potentially get to the eggs. So it must be tough for our Boris and Vlad to actually breed and have any sort of success. And then you combine these guys raiding nests with the fish eagles and, leopards and honey badgers and all the other things that go after the little baby crocs.
Makes for a very, very, very tough upbringing. But once they get past that sort of meter range, which obviously takes a bit of time, then generally the crocs do quite well in this section. It was actually really nice to be down on the Sand River and just see how many crocs there are. It looks like the Sand River is very healthy with crocodiles at the moment. That's always a really kind of good sign. After the droughts, you wonder whether or not the crocs are going to take a bit of time to come back, but they obviously did just fine. They must have found little pools and caves and things and hidden in those until the water came back pretty strongly. I actually had a really cool sighting of 2 crocodiles eating an impala when I was down in the Sand River. They were in a pool, and I don't know kind of what exactly happened, but Ravens caught the male leopard was also there. So I'm not sure if the crocs stole it from him or if he heard the commotion and kind of came down. But it was really interesting watching these 2 crocs feed off this impala, and they were both very young crocs. So it was quite difficult for them to kind of break the impala apart. It's like if an impala gets caught here by Vlad or Boris, they're so big that they'll just pick that impala up with their mouth and shake it and break pieces off of it, basically like that. But these 2 crocs were so small that they didn't have that power, so they had to do that death roll. So they grab a piece of it and then they spin as quickly as they can, and that shears off chunks. So it was super interesting just watching that behavior. It's been a while since I've seen crocs actually feeding in that manner. Like I say, most of the time that you see crocs, the bigger ones, it's just literally shake and maim and break the carcass apart like that. I don't think we're going to see too much activity from these 2. I reckon that they're going to be pretty stationary. I don't think they're going to go far. So, Darcy, not too far off. I find the water monitors to be a little longer, but it's really not that much difference. I find that the water monitors are more, we find more of them more consistently. And so I suppose in many ways that's what helps us to be able to kind of see the sizes of them. Big rock monitors are not as common as the big water monitors. But yeah, they essentially reach a very similar size. I've seen rock monitors that are pretty close to the size of this one that's lying there. But with the rock monitors, they're often a lot heavier set, so bigger kind of head and neck area. So while they might be the same sort of length, weight-wise, I would imagine the rock monitors weigh a little bit more. They might unfortunately get a rude interruption because there's a vehicle coming down. So it's going to be interesting to see who moves first and who plays chicken first and actually gets out of the way. I suspect that the monitors will be the first ones to kind of just slink off the bridge and head down off the edge. There we go. We're going to have a car just come past. Our monitors actually stayed, which is pretty amazing. They decided that they didn't want to actually move. I see now they've just kind of gone past the edge of the little concrete section, but they didn't move far. I would have thought they would have scuttled off a lot further than they did. You can just kind of see a tail sort of hanging off the edge now. I'm sure they'll come back up at some point. Now, we were following tracks, obviously, like I say, for Thandi and Mareep's tracks are also not far, but unfortunately they go into an area where I don't have signal, so we've had to kind of just give up on that for now. That's why I came down to Chitwa Dam just to come and see what was happening here. Always a good spot when it's just sort of a general searching pattern. I like sitting here, not so much in the mornings because you get blinded by the light when you look out over the dam, but I enjoy sitting here just from a point of view that it's a good sort of centralized spot for hearing any calls that might be around. To give you an idea of where these tracks went when I say we lost signal for them, is they've gone towards the Mulawanini for Mareeps, and then he's cut eastwards towards sort of Chitwa driveway area, but into like a little drainage section, and I just don't get signal. Not too far from where we had those elephants. And Thandi's tracks go into Torchwood towards the Mulawanini, and again, we don't get signal in that drainage line itself, so we'll have to hope that they come out of the drainage line by this afternoon, and then we'll be able to kind of pursue them once again. It'd be really nice to catch up with Thandi and Mareeps. I haven't seen them in ages, so I'm super keen to kind of see them again. All right, I think we'll sit here for a little bit longer. We'll just do a bit of birding and just just kind of take it easy, and in the meantime, they send you across to Lauren, who's on the move.
You take it easy, Tristan. You put your feet up. Why not? I am not having a lucky morning at all, really. I feel like I've made all the wrong decisions. But I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to keep trying. It's been very quiet on the leopard track spots. And obviously, the hyena den wasn't such a lucky one. But I am back on quarantine. Not that I think Tingana or Kalamba is still around here, but what I've noticed is that very often we check quarantine in the morning and then we all leave to check other areas, but actually quarantine is so productive that we probably miss a lot once we've left it. It's always worth coming back and just checking it. And this is a drainage that we got slightly stuck in yesterday. Just a minor thing. Luckily, Tristan came to get me. It was funny because we're having a little bit of a tricky issue with comms. We're not able to really talk to our director right now, and I had no phone service in the drainage. So how are we going to call Marcel and tell him to rescue us? Anyway, once we managed to chat to Tristan on the game drive radio, I thought, how am I going to describe where we are? We're in the middle of a drainage. I said, Tristan, you know that jackalberry that you find in Ghana? He went, yep, I know the one, we're coming to get you. And he was here in 2 minutes. So it's always good to find landmarks. Yes, on a road it's easy, but when you're in a drainage line, it's definitely... Ah, that's the jackalberry right there. We just drove past it. Oh, can you see that tall tree in the drainage line? We're going to start to turn yellow. All the jackalberry trees have got this lovely yellow color right now. They are actually deciduous. There you go, you've just got it on the sort of left-hand side. Sorry, everyone. Morgan's monitor's just fallen off, so I'm holding it for him. But there you go, that's the tree. And Tingana's always found there. So it's good that when you're a guide, you just make these landmarks. It makes it a lot easier to be rescued, let me tell you that. But as I at least try to find some form of a heartbeat, we are going to send you guys over to Nick.
So I went down for a short walk on the tracks of those lions, and I was making some nice progress when they started to roar just in front of me. So we pretty much know the exact area where these lions that are roaring are, but there's 2 vehicles with guests in that are going to go ahead of me to try to see if they can find them. We were very close to finding them. We were this far away this morning. But hopefully the other vehicles will end up locating them, and then we can go potentially have a look if they find them in time. It does sound like it's the 2 males roaring, and with the fact that we didn't see the tracks of the cubs coming out, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lioness and some of the youngsters there as well. So we'll just wait for updates on the radio. Hopefully they will find them. We are now driving along the northern bank of the Timbavati riverbed, and just seeing, to be honest, what else we can find. It's been a nice long morning tracking lions, and we were very close to finding them, which would have been very, very cool. But let's hope that the other vehicles manage to locate them, and then we can hopefully go and have a look. And while we drive along here, you can see, or you won't be able to see, but there's no one's driven here this morning, so we'll be having a careful look for any tracks. Our main objective along this road is tracks of a leopard, and more importantly, tracks of the female leopard with the 2 small cubs. She could have been moving around this morning. I think now that it's got a little bit warmer, she would have left those youngsters if she was with them this morning, and probably starting to look for something to try and catch and essentially kill. So we will slowly check. There's some really nice big trees along this road as well, so we'll check in the trees for any signs of a carcass. Actually, now with the leaves coming off most of the trees, and the canopies being a little bit sparser for those trees that still have leaves, we...
Can I please make noise a second?
Hey, they found it. So we will just keep driving. Hopefully we'll get a chance to go and see them, but thankfully they found them quite nice and quickly this morning as a result of our tracking and picking up on clues. I think the other two vehicles were originally looking for the white lions in the south, but they're in a very tricky area, and actually no one saw any tracks this morning. They're between Burnt and Huge Block. So Mandy, with the fact that there's no fences around the property, it's quite tricky to say how many lion prides exactly are on the property at any given time, but this morning we know that at least part of the Birmingham pride's on the property. So there's one pride. One of our trainee rangers had lions roaring in the west, more than likely the breakaway pride, so that could mean that there's two prides on the property this morning. Only one group of lions has been found, but there could be two prides on this morning. Other than the breakaway pride and the Birmingham pride, we also tend to see, not as often as the two of them, but we also tend to see the Mbiri pride that come in from the Manuletti in the southwest, the Squirrel pride which comes in from Kruger in the east, the Mayan Bula pride which comes in from the Kruger and the Timbavati in the northeast, and the Avoca pride, which you might see updates of the Sabi Sands and the Avoca males. They would have come from the Avoca pride that lives in the west of Ngala and into the Timbavati. So what does that make it? Six different prides. It's quite crazy to think that one property could have 6 different prides on it at any given time. And I think this sort of area between here, Open Gate and the Kruger National Park, and Satara, all the way east towards the Swaney areas, one of the better areas to look for lions around around the Kruger National Park. So we've really got quite a good area where the property of andBeyond Ngala is for lions and lion dynamics, and that's the name Ngala, I'm sure most of you know, means lion in Shangaan. But I'll hear what the update is around those animals that have just been found, and if we do have time this morning, hopefully we'll get a chance to go and see what the makeup is and see what those lions are getting up to.
Across southern and East Africa, the Endangered Wildlife Trust works tirelessly to save species, protect critical habitats, and benefit people. Join the EWT in returning wildlife to the wild. Go to ewt.org.za to find out more and follow our socials to see how you can get involved. Protecting forever, together.
There's a grounding earthiness to this place that we feel in our ancestors. It's a place where, believe it or not, we evolved as a human species, and anyone who's come to Africa will understand that. The connectivity that the continent has to the person and to people's souls is next level. I'm thoroughly looking forward to taking you on your next adventure when we explore all the small and big things.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
I love being a cam op for WildEarth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
We kept on driving after losing visual of those black rhinos, and look what we found here, a group of zebras and quite a few giraffes spread out and feeding and just enjoying this warm sun coming over. Look at the tails of the zebras just going all the time, chasing away the flies and biting insects. There's a giraffe coming from the right-hand side that's coming across to the rest. Wonder if it's also heading to that thicket where the rest of them are feeding. There's actually a young giraffe there as well. 2 young ones, smaller ones feeding there in the back. Have a look through the binoculars. Looks like it's a young bull that's walking there, coming to feed now. I can see how thick the horns are, quite flat on top. Those youngsters are so cute with their fluffy little horns on their heads. Looks like a big female that's in front of that young bull. And see how he's going to her and smelling her. Maybe checking if she's in estrus. Getting some information from her, but he's not fully grown. You can see he's a little bit smaller than the female there. Walking around to the other side of the thicket now. Oh, look at the female going and investigating that youngster. That must be her calf. These baby giraffes are so cute. Oh, she's trying to get away from that bull. See how she's like turned around now, and now she's coming back this way again. Let's see if there's an interaction between her and that youngster there. Yeah, all of them coming and standing together. Some zebras going and lying down there as well. On the thicket. Can't see them from where we are though. See that bull still smelling her. Oh. Oh, look at that. See the male's actually tasting the urine of the female. And doing a flehmen grimace to see if he can find out and test the scent of the urine to see if she's in heat or not. Luckily, we humans don't need to do that. See, there's now another individual standing with the 2 youngsters in the back there. There's quite a few giraffes out in the distance on the crest of the hill. I wonder if they are all part of kind of the same herd, just loosely spread all over this area. Because if I look at these, it only looks like one fully grown female, the one that's furthest to the left and feeding on the thicket there. So I don't know where the mothers, that's just one of the moms of these 2 youngsters. Though you're asking how the females know which male to mate with. So the male giraffe will have a hierarchy in between all of them. they're not really territorial or anything like that. So I suppose they choose the biggest and the strongest one. And if there's only one of them, I suppose their choice is kind of made for them. Yeah, the youngsters are starting to move to the giraffe that's up on the crest there. I wonder if they can see them there in the distance. Oh, going closer to a small thicket there. You might just hear a plane coming over now, and that is one of our anti-poaching planes that's doing the rounds, flying over Phinda, checking for any suspicious activities or anything like that. Don't mind us, we're just watching the giraffe and the zebras. Looks like this young giraffe is following the sub-adult giraffe. Is just following these youngsters constantly and smelling towards them. They're kind of like pushing and shoving each other. I think they're all a little bit playful. Yeah, look at that. As you are saying, they are so precious when they're so small and little, and they indeed are. There's very few things that is as beautiful and as precious as a small giraffe, hey? A lot of grooming happening, and I can hear quite a few red-billed oxpeckers. I wonder if they're just flying in between these giraffes and the zebras. See the one youngster further to the right. He's actually going and feeding on like a small buffalo thorn tree, I think. Just the right height for him to feed on. It's already switching in between milk and feeding on some leaves. Oh, looks like the older one that's moving off to the right wanted to pick something up for a moment off the ground. Let's keep an eye on it and see where it goes. Might just be going to the next thickets or next trees to go feed. But look, it's constantly looking down to the ground and listening down to the ground as well. I wonder if there's maybe some bones it wants to chew on. It's almost like it's searching. See how it's moving its head from side to side? Oh no, it's just going to some small buffalo thorn trees there. Alex, you're asking if baby giraffes eat plants and feed on leaves as soon as they're born. They do not. They are only drinking milk when they're born, and then for the first little while they'll only drink milk, and then after that start feeding on leaves, and they'll start to switch over like gradually until their mom stops producing milk or until they get weaned by their mother. Oh, look at these two adults rubbing necks there. And actually that young bull is still following this female. I think he's trying to take his chances with her now that there's no older bulls and bigger bulls around, because otherwise he would definitely not be in the running. these giraffes are moving around and feeding, and the zebras are just wagging their tails away. We're gonna see if we can keep on going and see if we can find some other animals.
All right, welcome back everyone, and as you can see we've got nothing in picture yet. So we're just waiting on one of these roads, but if you listen carefully in the background, there is a bird calling. It might be a grey go-away bird. It sounds a little bit more like a tawny eagle, but I can't see it, and I can see a grey go-away bird, so I wonder if it's just not a variation of that call. It's a hornbill that I can see. But I'm just going to be quiet for a little while and listen to the sounds of the bush. Quite a solid breeze blowing from the right-hand side, sort of from the east, and I'm guessing that's the reason why the lions moved northeast into the wind last night and potentially hunting. And obviously the pride is now split up, with some of them being not far from where we are right now. Hopefully we'll get to them in the next sort of 10 minutes, and then the rest of the pride with their tracks heading further north and east. But it is always quite nice to just turn off and listen to the sounds. See that beautiful big knobthorn, and I've noticed the knobthorns are starting to get a few flowers on them as well. Not on that specific one as of yet, but yesterday I saw some with really nice flowers on.
Well, we might not have found a spotty predator, but we found probably one of Africa's most iconic, especially from a calling point of view. A fish eagle that is busy sitting up there at the moment, just eyeing our Chitwa Dam, and like sitting with them sometimes you get some cool behavior from these guys. I remember it was one of my favorite things about being at Chitwa when I was working was the fish eagles. Used to watch them catch fish. We used to watch them go after the Egyptian geese from time to time, monitor lizards. They're pretty efficient little hunters, and I've seen them catch some rather large fish out of this dam. In fact, sometimes so big that they actually can't even get themselves out the water and they have to swim themselves to shore, which is a dangerous game to play in a place like this, because our two big crocodiles, if these fish eagles are a little bit too far, could easily come down and grab them. So you find that they, if they do it, it's generally when they're close to shore, and they kind of use their wings as a big sort of powerful stroke, and it gets them to the edge, and then they sort of drag the catfish out from there and then feed off it. It's not that common that they do it, but I've seen them take probably, in the time that I was at Chitwa, maybe 6 or 7 different catfish that were, I would imagine in size-wise, probably double the size that they are, which is a pretty spectacular catch, and just gives you an idea of how strong these fish eagles are, with not only with their feet, but also how powerful they are to be able to swim with a fish that's designed to be in water, and get them to the bank and be able to kind of subdue them from there. So pretty amazing. But they are big hunters of these Egyptian geese, which you can probably hear honking away in the background. They hunt the little ones quite regularly. When they're still small and are not able to fly, you find the fish eagles come down and grab them. So they're pretty efficient predators when it comes to hunting around water points. And then, like I say, their call is just, synonymous with Africa. Anyone that's heard it or watched anything to do with Africa, generally there's a fish eagle call somewhere in that audio track if it's a documentary thing. And if you've been to Africa, if you've been anywhere near water, you'll know the call very, very well. Always when I hear it, it just makes me feel like I'm in the right place. I love their sound that they make. Jamie, you asked if we ever find eagles in flocks. So generally no. Most eagles are going to pair together for life, and they'll just be this kind of little pair that stays in a certain area. But what you will find when eagles potentially look like they're flocking, if you want to call it that, is like if there's a termite hatch, then sometimes what you'll find when the termites are hatching and there's lots of winged owlets that are around, you'll get multiple members of the same species. So let's say like lesser spotted eagles or Wahlberg's eagles, you can often find lots and lots of them kind of hanging around feeding off these termites. But none of them move in flocks together in this area. All of our birds of prey are generally either solitary or in pairs. Obviously the migratory birds like steppe eagles, they're not breeding here, so they will just generally be on their own. But tawnies and fish eagles and African hawk eagles, they're all going to be paired off together, not really in flocks, so to speak. All right, I think we're going to probably leave Chitwa Dam now. Unfortunately, not much has kind of come out. We haven't heard anything while we've been sitting here other than Egyptian geese making a lot of noise. So we're probably going to start making our way slowly back to Djuma and see what we can kind of get on the way. I'm hoping that maybe we'll get a little last-minute leopard that will pop out somewhere. And we'll be able to kind of view it. But we've been, it's weird because coming back, normally your first day back, you're kind of quite keen to see leopard and those kinds of things. But because I've just been on this trip now, we got actually spoiled with a number of different individuals, and I got to see a number of cats that I wanted to see. That yearning for leopards is not as bad as it normally is. I mean, it's there, but it's certainly not as bad as it normally is. So hopefully we'll get one, but if we don't, we've at least established our scent trail and we'll be able to start picking them up this afternoon. All right, in the meantime though, let's send you back across to Nick and see how he's doing this morning.
So we have managed to get to these lions that were found by one of the other guides, and in picture you can see one of the bigger male lions, and you can see how he's looking away from us, and you'll see with the rest of them, a couple of them heads up, all staring in the distance. There were some zebras vocalizing in that direction, and I think that's what caught their attention. Really only the one male and one of the lionesses. And I was not far from this position when I was on foot and I heard them calling. So it would have been quite cool to find them and watch them roar while walking, but nonetheless very cool to have been able to find them in the vehicle. This is the Birmingham Pride, for those of you who are wondering, the group without the white lions and the group with the smaller cubs as well. You can see one of the youngsters moving back across to one of the other lionesses. I think it's going to go try see if it can't join up with the lioness and maybe continue moving towards where two of the other youngsters are already resting in the shade for this morning. Wouldn't say it's incredibly hot, so that's why these lions are still out lying in the sun enjoying the last bit of warmth for this morning before it gets really, really warm, and then they will try and find shade, which there's lots of nice shady spots around here, so I think they're probably going to be settled down in this area for the rest of the day unless something disturbs them, like maybe a herd of elephants if they were to come through, or if there's an opportunity to hunt something. It's quite interesting, the dynamics here. It's quite tricky to see which lions exactly are here, but the two dominant males are here. The two lionesses, the middle ones, the ones with the cubs are here as well. And then it looks like two sub-adult lionesses here. And the two older cubs, the one-year-old cubs, are also here. So I'm sure that's their mothers here as well, potentially lying in the grass. That one flat at the back, that could be them. There's one of the older youngsters, also fast asleep. See its ear just going every now and then. It's got some biting flies that are irritating them a little bit. They didn't end up moving as far as I would have expected them to have moved last night, considering the lionesses looked quite hungry. And I can't see any blood on them, but maybe at some stage during the evening they managed to catch something small like an impala, and that slowed their progress down. And it makes me wonder what... I mean, the tracks that we originally had were definitely of this group, but the tracks that we saw crossing much further north and east of here can't be any of these lions, because it's the same group that we had the tracks of behind us. So I'm wondering if maybe it isn't another group of the pride. The tracks of the sub-adults that we saw, it looked like they were just the three sub-adult males and one lioness that were in the south. So I wonder if the white lioness and one of the older lionesses and some of the other sub-adult lionesses, that wasn't their tracks that we had crossing north and east into that very big wilderness block. But quite a beautiful setting that we've got this morning. Might be able to hear those little cubs whining at mom, trying to get space to suckle on one of her teats. Very noisy little lion cubs. But I think we'll stick around here for the next little while and just enjoy the rest of the morning with these lazy cats.
As one of the industry's best and Fagasa endorsed training institutes, NJ Moorfield Guide College produces professional guides of exceptional caliber and gives students from around the world an incredible experience. NJ Moore offers courses to suit all types of interests. The full-length career course results in a Fagasa accredited qualification and the option of a 6-month internship at one of Moore Family Collection's luxury safari lodges. Shorter courses are a great introduction for those considering a career in field guiding or even a life-enriching experience in your gap year. With spaces still available in July, don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity to live your African dream.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon, and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Oh, it's gonna be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala! There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
I really did scratch around everywhere and no luck, but we came to Galway Dam, right next to the dam camp, and I have to say I just love seeing hippos out the water. It's almost like a fish out of water. It sometimes looks a little bit wrong. Look at that little one who's decided, no, I'm not ready to move. They haven't moved. They're not doing anything. They're not feeding. But they're just standing up, resting. And look at these bodies. They almost look like they're wrong, if that makes sense. These huge, huge bodies with those massive neck, which naturally supports that extremely large skull and muzzle. And then you look at those tiny little legs. They're very small. And hippos can run, but they can't jump. They can't really navigate out of the way of obstacles. They're not very elegant on their feet. And they also can't swim. They're not swimming in the water. They're either floating or bobbing up and down on the sort of bottom of the water body. But of course it's winter. They're cold. They also warm up in the sun just like we all do. And that's why they're out of the water. They're not feeding. They're just trying to warm up, get some vitamin D, get some warmth, and then eventually they're going to slide back into the water. They look like statues. I think they're real. They literally look like someone's just planted statues there. But I think I'm going to spend the rest of the drive at this waterhole. At least I can get lucky with some animals. And for now, we're going to send you across to Nick with his lions.
So we've got some of the lionesses and the youngsters now on the move. Don't know if they're looking for a new spot to settle or if they've picked up on something. They don't seem like they're too interested in everything, but really nice at the end of the drive to see a couple of these lions moving now with the youngsters. And there you can see one lioness. Looked like she was sitting, but it looks like she might be urinating and scent marking. And I think what we'll do is we'll stick with them and follow them. But I think this angle where we're sitting right now, it's quite a cool shot to just see, especially those little cubs and their black ears just moving through the grass. You can see how long the grass is as well, with the cubs just disappearing into it. And having that gorgeous male lion right in the middle of the picture as well. It's funny how they just got up and decided that they were going to start moving from pretty much nothing. There were no real signs of them looking to start moving, and you can see how the two males not really interested in heading off just yet. Two sub-adult lionesses down here to the right, busy grooming as well. They also, they're looking in that direction. I definitely think they are going to get up and follow. But maybe what they're looking for is an area that's a little bit more sheltered from the sun, with a bit more shade than they have had in this specific area this morning. I'm sure you will get a chance to see these lions later if it is on the plans for Dyke, who will be taking over this afternoon. Exciting for him to be back on. Look at him looking at the sub-adult lioness, see how he reacts to her when she walks past. No real interest there. We've been watching these sub-adult lionesses and they tend to try and flirt with that male lion, and he's not a big fan of it, surprisingly. I think it might be because they're still a little bit too young to mate. but I can see some of the lionesses' backs where they've moved off into a bit of a thicker area. They are still slowly moving in a south and easterly direction. Maybe they're deciding that it's time for a drink, and that's what the pleasure is of wintertime. I remember hearing that Lauren was saying how much better the game viewing is in winter. It's definitely easier to find animals, and with the cooler temperatures, you've got more chance of seeing things like lions moving late into the morning. If this was summertime by now, it would be far too hot for them to be moving. But while we stick with these lions and see where they're heading to, we're going to send you over to Tristan.
Well, our mix sticks with these lions. We managed to find a little spotty bum. We came back the route that I'd come out this morning from Djuma and found female tracks on top of mine. And so we quickly followed them as fast as we could to try to see if we could catch this cat before the end of the drive, and managed to find her sitting at Tree House. Down. Now, the audio apparently not very good. 2 seconds. My apologies.
There we go, it should be a lot better now. But yeah, so basically we were trying to follow tracks as fast as possible in order to try and catch up with her before the end of drive, which we have managed to do. Super cool. Her tracks were on top of our vehicle tracks, so we knew that she couldn't be far. And she's busy hunting impalas that are coming down to drink. Now, which cat it is, I think it's Moya. I can't see nicely just yet, because all I've got obviously is a tail, and we were super excited to find her kind of sitting here, but I think it's her. Can I just turn a little bit? Could be Tlalamba. The two of them are both in this area lately, but it looks like it might be Moya. I haven't seen her in a while, so without seeing her face, it's going to be a little bit tricky. But I'm glad we managed to find her, and I don't think she'll go too far if it is her. If it's Tlalamba, obviously she could be anywhere, but the ears don't look right for Tlalamba. Tlalamba's got beautiful clean ears. These ears look like they're a little bit turned out. But maybe it's her. I don't know. We'll have to kind of get a better view of her face to know which one it is. I'm sure James, Richard, if you're watching, you'll be able to ID them from the back spots. It's a technique that we don't use all that often. Normally we rely on seeing the face and the head in order to know exactly who it is. But my guess is that it's probably Moya. Maybe what we should do, because she's not going to get to those impalas, is just get a quick shot of her face before drive finishes. So I'll just kind of get in on the side here. She didn't even look at us when we came in. Rusty? Such a noise. Alright, let's go. Pretty sure it's Moya. There you go. Moya. So she's just watching the impalas. I know the light is not great, but she's got herself in a nice little spot there in order to hunt and to be able to find the food that she needs. So that's really cool. I don't think she'll go too far today. She might try and chase a little bit. She looks like she could do with a meal, but I don't think she'll go too far from this little water point. There's not much other water around, so this makes a good place. But it is that time where we need to say goodbye. I was super glad that we managed to get a last-minute leopard for all of you, and it's really nice to be back at Djuma, so I hope you all enjoyed the morning, and we look forward to seeing you this afternoon. So from all of us, it's a big goodbye, and we'll see you on our sunset safari.